I know you guys have been waiting for me to say something crazy. That wasn't quite crazy.
When you get to be 62, 63, you lose your filter a little bit.
It didn't take much convincing. The proof's in the pudding. Nothing gets people excited like winning. Keep winning, people gonna come. It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
Oh, don't you worry, Coach. They have Googled and they know. Welcome into College Football Live. He's Pete Thamel, Stanford Steve, and I am Jen Latta. Why are we here? Because Indiana is having itself a season on the football field. This is a school, guys, a program that has only had 3 winning seasons since 1995, and they are doing it with Curt Cignetti at the helm. Washington coming into Indiana for this Big Ten matchup. Huskies will try to take down the unbeaten Hoosiers, but Indiana's going to have to do it without their star QB, Kurtis Rourke, who is out with that thumb injury on his right hand. So it's Taven Jackson's time. Both head coaches talked about the matchup.
The team has 100% confidence. I have confidence. The staff has confidence in Taven Jackson. I thought he played really well in the second half. He's a guy that's extremely capable. Extremely capable. And I'm sure he'll rise to the occasion.
We're going to have to see what they're going to do on offense. They probably will have some change, but they certainly didn't have to make any big changes in that game, and they were able to continue running the offense that they have done extremely well with.
Okay, so this is a huge blow for Indiana that has been rolling along, steamrolling, if you will, opponents. Pete, what more can you tell us about the QB situation?
Well, there's just good news this week on Kurtis Rourke, Jen. So Sunday, we learned that he was doubtful for this game, and he's not going to play against Washington on Saturday. On Monday, he had surgery on that thumb, and there's some optimism amongst Indiana folks that Kurtis Rourke could be back next week when they play at Michigan State. Again, fingers are funny injuries, and the thumb is obviously a huge part of passing the ball. But the early read is that this is not going to be a long-term injury for Kurtis Rourke, and we could see him as soon as next week, November 2nd, in East Lansing.
Wow.
I just am amazed at the toughness that he showed. He played 13 more plays after that play. Supposedly his thumbnail ripped off too. Like, it was a mess. But getting to Taven Jackson, I wasn't sure what to expect when you put the tape on and he comes in to start the second half. And I thought, they're already up 28-7. They're just going to run the ball and get out of here. No, not Curt Cignetti. They go passes on 4 of the first 6 plays. He throws 2 touchdowns, and they score 28 more points in the second half. So there was no handcuffs on. There was nothing. Taven came out and played really well. So, it's funny Cignetti brought up the word capable, because that's what you want in your backup, right? We need capability to be able to not lose anything. And the way the run game is, their skill guys are way better on tape than I thought. They're not losing much to me with Taven at starting quarterback.
Of course, if you saw Cignetti's face in the later parts of that game, you wouldn't have known his team was up 42-7 or whatever it was late. What is the situation for Washington to win this game, Steve?
Well, I think when you look at Washington, they haven't been able to put 60 minutes together against good teams. And sorry, Michigan, I don't consider you a good team right now.
No, Des isn't here today. It's okay.
No, I'm not taking shots at all. I'm just, when you talk about what they're going against, because you go back to Iowa, right? Their last road trip, they crossed the time zones. Now in the Big Ten, the teams that cross 2 time zones are 5 and 12. But Washington has to put 60 minutes together against Iowa. They come out 2-4. Everybody worries about the rust and the travel. Come out 2 14-play drives. They only have 7 points to account for. And you know what Iowa does is strangle you for 60 minutes. So they got to find it in their wherewithal to play for 60.
So, Jen, I went over to Washington's walkthrough today, about a half an hour from here today. It was really interesting to hear the different messaging. Jedd Fisch, hey, all the pressure's on them. All the attention's on them. We're playing loose. We're playing with joy. We're playing free. That obviously starts with Will Rogers. He's an efficiency machine, 72% of his passes. But look for Damon Williams. He's been playing about a dozen snaps a game. Jedd Fisch is really bullish on him as the future of Washington football. Remember, Steve, he was committed to Ole Miss, flipped to Arizona, and then after one day on campus, flipped to Washington. He's a real threat with both his arms and his legs, and he has 2 touchdown passes this year, a bunch of yards rushing. So he could be a dangerous guy who could impact this game at a critical juncture.
One area for Washington to really pay attention to, really focus on, is their 3rd down conversions and their red zone, guys. 3 of 9 on the road in the red zone this season. You want to beat the Indiana team, you got to be able to punch it in on 3rd down and when you're in the red zone. Let's take a look at our ranked versus ranked matchups for this week. We start with number 12, Notre Dame, taking on number 24, Navy. That game at MetLife Stadium. The Fighting Irish have won 6 straight against Navy, but the midshipmen are eyeing a repeat of their 2010 upset at MetLife Stadium. Top-ranked Oregon takes on number 20 Illinois. That's for the first time since 1995. Illinois is fresh off a win against defending champion Michigan and looks to beat an AP number 1 opponent for the 4th time in team history. Meanwhile, in the SEC, number 15 Alabama is hoping to bounce back from that road loss at Tennessee last week. The Crimson Tide have never lost to Missouri in Tuscaloosa, and they haven't lost to the Tigers at all in nearly 50 years. Texas visits Vanderbilt for the first time in nearly a century. Vandy seeking its 2nd win over an AP top 5 opponent, actually, after knocking off then number 1 Alabama earlier this month. And down in College Station, LSU and Texas A&M both put their 6-game win streaks on the line in a matchup between the top 2 teams in the SEC standings. The Tigers are a perfect 8-0 in AP-ranked matchups against A&M. So let's take a look at today's road test presented by Goodyear. LSU looks to snap a 5-game road losing streak against AP top 15 opponents when they face the Aggies. The road team has not won a game in this series since 2016. Steve, both teams famously undefeated in the SEC. Who has the edge for you?
It's pretty crazy after week 1 that these 2 teams, that started their season with a loss, are first in the probably the best conference in the country. But I love this matchup. It's my favorite matchup all day Saturday. When you look inside the matchup, that LSU offensive line, led by Will Campbell, Emory Jones, the bookend tackles, against the defensive line of A&M. Being down at A&M, going to practice before week 1. I think Mike Elko was the only coach in America I talked to that was not worried about depth on the defensive line. So you've seen that come out during this win streak. The 2 Shamars up front, in the middle, and the transfer has been incredible. But how can they get to and try and fluster Garrett Nussmeier, who has just brought his team back, put him on their shoulders time after time? This stretch for LSU has been incredible for what they've done. They still have a little bit longer. This would be a huge step, but a great matchup on the lines of scrimmage.
So interesting for LSU, for Nussmeier at the receiver position. They have been without Chris Hilton Jr. all year long. He's really their only 4-3, take the top off the defense guy, like pure straight line speed. He's been game time decision, but he has not played a snap yet this year. It'll be interesting to see if he can finally go. He's had a funky ankle injury that he got during August. He could really be a difference maker on a night where taking the top off the defense can make all the difference in the world.
Yeah, I wonder about Nussmeier too, and whether he will choose to use his legs. He's going to get pressured. They're going to push him out of the pocket. How much out-of-pocket stuff does LSU do, knowing that the guys that A&M has? And LSU's defense has been really, really good during this win streak. Got diced up against USC, but they have gotten better and better. I mean, we were there at South Carolina. They couldn't get off the field, and then it was just big play after big play. Tackling wasn't great. They didn't look organized, but they've been excellent during this win streak.
And you talked about the battle at the line of scrimmage and how important that is going to be to the outcome of this one. A big reason why Nussmeier has been successful this year is the offensive line. Marissa tells me they've allowed just 2 sacks this season. I believe she said good for 2nd in the country. A big reason why they're having success, Pete.
Oh, absolutely. When you look at the LSU offensive line, you could argue this is the best offensive line in the country versus the best defensive line in the country.
Yes.
Certainly the best set of tackles in the country. And Nick Scorton, I think, is the best edge in the country right now. He's obviously the Purdue transfer.
Yeah.
We'll see if the crowd reacts. They don't. Purdue couldn't afford him. He went to A&M. He's from right outside College Station, Texas. And he really has been a huge difference. He's a pro. I think he just turned 21. He might be 20. He's a younger guy. And
he's put together, man.
Looks like it should look like down the street in Indianapolis when they roll those dudes out there in late February and early March.
Yeah.
He is a prototype freak, and really, if he can rattle Garrett Nussmeier, it's going to make a huge difference in this game.
Crowd noise, the whole thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, well, there has been a lot of movement in the rankings already this season. What better time to check in with Steve on his gambling guide?
Yeah, let's give some picks for the people. Looking at this week's slate, one game sticks out to me like a sore thumb. Miami is hosting Florida State. They haven't won in about 4 years. The last time Florida State went to Miami, 45-3. Miami hasn't been great. They've got all these comebacks. I expect if Mario Cristobal could put a number on Florida State, this is the year and this is the week to do it. I expect Miami to score a ton of points, and that defense will get after Florida State's offense. Next one is a game that makes 0 sense. BYU is undefeated. They're number 11 11 in the country. I mentioned they did not have a loss so far yet this year, and UCF is favored in this game. This does not make any sense, so we're going to take UCF. They were in the same spot last year against Oklahoma State, gave them a dose. UCF will take minus the points. And then finally in the SEC, Vanderbilt, #1 ranked team in the SEC when it comes to third down conversions. It's because of that guy right there, Diego Pavia. He has been sensational. Alabama, you go back and watch tape, they could not get off the field. Coach Saban's still talking about it almost a month later. But Vanderbilt will provide problems. I'm really interested to see how Texas comes out. Quinn Ewers has to be better. He took a good shot on that fumble. We all know Arch came in for a couple series, got it together a little bit in the second half, but Quinn Ewers has to be better for Texas. But we'll take Vandy plus the points.
That Vanderbilt crowd is ready to go again. You know it after that big win earlier this season. And they're ready to tear down some goalposts and march them back into the river, aren't they?
How much